Okay, how Masteos is changing the real estate investment.
Great. Thank you very much, Simon. It's a pleasure to be here. I really do love the Property Portal Watch event. I think the first that I attended was probably in 2013 or something, so that really dates quite a bit, and I really think that also attending the event in Bangkok and in Miami is great because it gives you different perspective about the real estate market. Talking about that, the biggest difference between the US and Europe is that Europe does not have buyer's agents, or very little. So while in the US you always have a listing agent, a seller's agent, and then a buyer's agent, in Europe the whole industry is seller-focused. Everybody is defending the seller's interest. A real estate agent is here to sell the property, but nobody really cares of the buyer. The issue is property portals, typically Realtor.com in the US, for example, when doing surveys about their buyers, how many do not get a response to their lead, so the lead they send on Pisos, Fotocasa Idealista here in Spain, or any property portal in any country, a big proportion of those leads do not get an answer from the real estate agent because the real estate agent will focus on the hottest or the freshest or the new leads, and a lot of them will not get answers. So Masteos, we're doing something which is basically focusing on the buyer, obviously, and for one niche, which is not really a niche, it's a huge market, it's real estate investment. So we help people, like all of us, private people, to buy, renovate, decorate, and property manage a property. In other words, we help people to do real estate investment. And we do that in France, and now we started the European expansion with Belgium and Spain. So I'll talk about that. Before I do, I just want to show you a quick video which will explain better what we do. Yeah. So essentially, what I will do during the 10 minutes that we have now is I will focus, if I can go to the slides. Yeah, okay. Great. So I will focus on explaining to you, I will not do a commercial presentation at all. I think what I love about Property Portal Watch is that a lot of businesses really open you their books or really tell you in a very transparent way what they do, where they are, and the challenges that they have. So that's what I will try to do in the next minutes. Rental investment service, when we look at the European market, because we're not yet in the United Arab Emirates, for example, or the US, but the European rental real estate investment is a market of 40 billion euros per year, and there is no leader. What I mean by that is, if you've already done a property investment somewhere, you might have been working with an individual property finder, or maybe you worked then with a renovation company, but it's a very, very, very fragmented market. In other words, there's no Airbnb of real estate investment. When you think about, I want to rent a flat in a certain city around the world, you think, okay, short-term investment equals Airbnb. But for the real estate investment, is there a brand that you trust? No, there is none. And in no country except, for example, Roofstock in the US, but in Europe there is not. In terms of where we are now, and I will explain a little bit, but after 3 years, we're a company of 450 employees. So it's very human resources intensive because in 3 years, going from 0 to 450 employees is a fast growth. And we've been doing that by obviously raising money. So we raised so far 55 million euros. The most recent round was in June. We raised 40 million euros. And this here is a picture taken from a headquarters in Paris, in Le Marais. And in terms of where we are at the moment, in June this year, for the first time, we did more than 200 transactions in 1 month. So 200 people like us that have bought a rental investment with the help of Masteos. So Masteos does not buy anything. Masteos is an advisor. We have property finders, we have salespeople, we have tech, we have marketing, but we don't buy anything. We help someone to buy, renovate, decorate, and property manage. So we help the whole process. In terms of revenue and kind of the trend of what we're doing at the moment, one of the things that is quite good with the model is that the more we go, the more we accelerate. For example, when I first heard about Masteos, it was basically 2 years ago. A friend of mine told me, I'm buying a building of 3 flats as an investment in the north of France with Masteos. Do you know them? I was like, no, never heard of them. Take care, they might be a crappy company. And the company at the moment was like 10 people. It was not very known yet. And after that, what happened is by giving a good service and by being very careful about satisfying the customer and being the buyer's agent, defending the buyer's interest, a lot of clients are recommending us to their friends, and we accelerate in a very organic way. Of course, we also do tons of paid acquisition, but we accelerate in a very good way. A story that I like to say, especially in Spain, where we started very recently, is we just had in Valencia, so the 3rd biggest city in Spain, we just had the story of 3 friends who bought 3 apartments in Valencia with us in 3 weeks. So the first one bought, loved our services, and boom. So this is kind of what we like. Now, when you think about residential real estate investment, especially for private people, one thing that you might think of is, how is this a scalable business? How are you going to create something scalable and something that we understand that has a certain uniformity or unity? Well, the way you do it, and the way we do it, is by creating standards. What I mean standards, as you can see on the picture, which is very revelative of what we do, we try to create standards, for example, in renovation. So in renovation, what we started doing, which was a mistake, was by hiring a lot of people as employees to be an electrician, to be a plumber, to be etc. The problem of that was it enabled us to understand very well the renovation business, which is a huge part of what we do, because about 60% of our revenues comes from renovating properties. So we are a prop tech that actually embarks a big renovation company. But it's not scalable if you need to hire people in renovation industry. So we had to change from there. But what really matters for us in order to build a brand, and a brand that you can trust, is to focus on 2 things: proud investors and happy tenants. It sounds super cheesy, but it's not. It's not, because if you want to be proud as an investor, you need to have a flat that looks good in the end, that really you want to show to your friends and say, look, I've done this investment, it looks great. You should work with Masteos because the quality of what they do in renovation and in decoration is great. So this is what we're trying to do. And the happy tenants is very, very important. Why? In Spain, in the real estate rental market, in order to satisfy the demand, there would need to be 1 million properties more. In other words, a lot of people are looking for flats and the offer is not there. So by creating a rental investment company, what you also do is you help investors to buy, renovate, decorate, and rent out in a market that does not have enough demand. So that's great. So this is a little bit what we do. In terms of tech, because I talked just before about the prop tech, I think that in prop tech, property technology, some companies are more technological than actually property. In our case, we have a foot, let's say we have a leg in property, which is very much in the mud, because we do real estate. right? We have property finders. At the moment, we have 80 property finders in many cities in France, Belgium, and Spain now that are visiting properties, doing the 3D Matterport tour, maybe Floorify at some point, actually. To scale the tech, we hired the CTO of Conto, which is the biggest neobank in France, valued at more than 5 billion. So we're really building a big tech company. And because we have a leg in the operations, we hired Thomas Maudet in France, who was in the French army for many years, and who was at Amazon. Really important to have a guy from the army, because actually, if you need to scale a business in the operations, in the renovation, you need discipline. You need discipline. So the army is a great past. Commoditized rental investments. Like I said before, the rental real estate market is a granular asset class that can be standardized. If you want to create a unicorn in this sector, you need to be able to create a Big Mac. You need to be able to create a standard. So this is what we try to do. Business model. How do you make money when you are Masteos? Basically, you make money on the acquisition, on the renovation, and on the property management. Acquisition, typical thing, your investor buys 200,000 properties, you take 5% that you charge to the buyer. We don't charge anything to the seller. So you get 10,000 euros here. Then you have the renovation. We go with a 30% gross margin in that activity. How? By taking care of the project management, architecture, and managing the costs in a very good way. And then leasing is a very traditional business, but it's a good business because it's recurring business. Gross margins, in other words, the different activities are very different from one to the other. What's really important is the revenue breakdown when you try to do this when you're on the buyer side. You can see that the brokerage fees, so this is to pay the property finders, the salespeople, and the service that you bring to the buyer. So this is where you get 5%, which is 10,000 euros on average. Renovation and furniture, the average renovation, at least in France, that we do is about 20,000, okay? And then rental management, 1,000 per year. So this is the revenue breakdown. Number of signed deals that we do. As you can see, it's accelerating pretty fast. At the moment, for example, this month, we're going to be doing about 250 transactions. So the trend is pretty good. And in France, we have competition. But let's say the closest competitor that we have, so we are 450 employees, the closest competitor that we have has about 100 employees. So they are about 4 times smaller. And accelerating and going fast and raising funds like we did so far with 55 million and looking for more is the way to create the market leader, because there's a time advantage. You want to be the first, okay? At scale unit economics of one deal, you're not looking at Rightmove or property portals, 50% plus EBITDA margin, impossible. But you're looking at a business that when you control things is going to have an EBITDA of 15%. Business plan would be too much. All of this through an app, of course. We have Masteos is an app. Actually, if you want to see really what we're doing, download the Masteos app and just look at 1 or 2 properties. You'll see that the biggest difference from us and a real estate website, a property portal, is that we present everything in a financial view. So you have the cash flow, you have the return on investment, etc., etc. Achievements. So basically, yeah, we like I said, here it says 300 employees. Now it's 450. We are really present in 3 countries, but the big part of the business is still France, because we started in France 3 years ago, and we only opened Belgium and Spain this year, but 4 months ago, so it's very recent, and we're trying to create the European leader, so definitely have the vision of doing that. The annualized revenue run rate at the moment is 75 million euros. So going back to what we said before with the mortgage business, in our case, this is the revenues, so it's not I'm not talking about the value of the real estate investments, but really about our commissions. And revenue per deal, 35,000 euro, which is something super interesting, because when you think about it, when with every transaction, you know that you onboard 35,000 euros, it is great monetization of every single deal. Then, of course, it's not margin, but it's a very good revenue onboarding. One thing that I want to say about property portals, you can see here customer acquisition cost, 160. One of the things that we need to learn how to do is to work with property portals. Why? Because we don't have listings to publish. We don't want to publish listings. Why? Because we don't have the seller's mandate. We have a buyer's mandate, so we cannot publish listings. And just one last note, the EU market. In every European market, and we talked about Turkey yesterday also, in every European market, real estate investment is between 10 and 20%, or even in France, 27% of the transactions. So it's not a niche market. It's 1 in 10 or 1 in 5 transactions. So roadmap, obviously, international expansion, and just to maybe finish on that, the equity story. Next year, we'll be looking at raising a 100 million round. This year was 25 plus 15 in debt, so 40. So this is a bit the roadmap. We're looking at the renovation business because in Europe, that's a huge factor. We talk a lot about the ecological ambition of the European Union. In France, for example, the housing, the flats that have a bad energy rate cannot be rented anymore. So if you have a letter G or more, you cannot rent it. So this is why we're doing that. So thank you very much for your attention. And of course, if you have any question, happy to help.
Geoffroy, thank you very much. I love what this is. And thank you for sharing that information, because I think it gives you really good insight into how you're thinking about changing the whole property rental, property investment process. Now, let's got some questions here. 70% of your revenue comes from renovations, the product with the lowest profit margin.
Yeah.
Do most clients who use your renovation services also hire your acquisition services?
Yeah. We don't do only renovation. If you buy with us, then we renovate, decorate, and property manage, but we don't do just one of them. We do all of them.
Right. So that's an add-on from the base service,
Yeah.
is the way to think about it. Is your renovation as a service offer only available to buyers? Oh, we've just answered that question, right, sorry. How do you differentiate yourself from your competitors such as Prop Hero?
So there are many competitors, and everybody has a different way of doing things. I don't know specifically about Prop Hero because I believe it's an Australian business that has moved into Spain, and we just arrived in Spain not long ago. But I cannot answer specifically about Prop Hero.
Okay. Can you explain your hunt team a little more?
Yeah. Actually, the hunt is a big challenge. Why? Because in France, they are independent workers. So they are exclusive to us, but we have about 70 property finders. So they actually contact real estate agents usually. So they would be on the leading property portals looking for interesting opportunity listings, contacting the agent, going to visit as a buyer, doing a 3D Matterport, creating the property detail page on Masteos with a financial analysis. So it's a very human-intensive thing. One property finder to create one property on Masteos, it takes him about 4 hours. And every month at the moment, we create, or we publish on Masteos, about 1,000 new properties.
Okay. The whole objective here is to look at the properties on sale in the market, understand the rental yields of those properties, match the two together, and then work out that this is a good rental property, and then you basically manage the process on behalf of the investor.
Absolutely, and just one thing on that, if you want to create a big actor in this, you should not focus on the very profitable properties. You need to change the pitch towards getting people to buy 5% yield properties, not 10%. If you do a 10% yield business, you're going to do very few transactions.
Okay. Now, interesting question. Interest rates are going up. 5% yield doesn't sound that great nowadays.
Yeah, so
how are you going to handle this sort of different... It sounds great when it's 0.5% or 0, but the world has changed.
Yeah.
How does this impact on your model?
So that's a super good question that I really love. Actually, what's happening is, so interest rates go up, sure. Rental income goes up, even faster. in Spain, for example, in the past year, the rental prices have gone like plus 10% and more. So rental prices go up so fast in this kind of moment because interest rates going up means a lot of people cannot buy anymore. So what do? They rent. So as an investor, really what you have is the earlier you invest, the better.
Are you, and I may have not picked this up, are you delivering a property with a tenant already in it for me, or are you just delivering a property that in theory will give me the rental return?
Great point. Usually what we do is we renovate, decorate, and then we take care of finding a tenant. So we take care of everything and we find the tenant as well.
Yep.
At the moment, we have 1,000 properties under property management. So we take care of finding tenants, and we have an occupancy rate in our flats at the moment of 95%.
Okay. So you do the ongoing management of the property as
yes.
well?
Yep.
Right, and that was your 5%, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Last question. Don't material suppliers vary per city? Doesn't that affect how scalable the business is? This is, I guess, for the renovation part of the business.
Yeah, renovation is a business that nobody wants to scale, which is exactly why we have a first mover advantage. Because it's not easy to create a company like we do, because when you take care of the renovation, the difficult part is renovation. It's logistics, it's like you say, materials and all of that, and that's why we hired a guy from the army, you know.
He'll solve everything.
Exactly that.
Okay. So there's no pressure on him?
No,
Got it. Okay, Geoffroy, thank you very much. I love what Masteos is doing, so thank you. Thank you for taking the time. And it was a really good presentation. Thank you.